There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful. They're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Very playful, very happy.
They notice a half-naked body lying in the road.
There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. And there was a bottle of alcohol on scene. I saw that it was uncorked. It was next to her.
Was this murder, or was this an accident?
Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service. She was a beautiful woman, and one of the ways that she made money was selling pictures of herself.
It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet. There are bad followers out there.
She was a great mother. They focus on her risky endeavors online, and she was so much more than that.
Looking at the video, everything looks great. It's sad to think that these are her final moments.
January 2018. For Kat and Jeff West, the quiet Birmingham, Alabama suburb of Calera is the perfect place to raise a family.
Kat was a very special person, and her energy was magnetic. Everybody was drawn to her.
Jeff was a very nice guy. He was very approachable and super sweet. It seemed like a match made in heaven.
Kat and Jeff have been together for nearly 15 years, and it's clear why Jeff fell for his wife.
Kat was beautiful inside and out. She captivated the audience the minute she walked in the door. She had a banging body, her makeup done all the time. Kat was hot.
Kat and I met as teenagers. She had this little Pontiac Fiero that I thought was really cool. She would pick me up and we would spend time with friends and go to the beach. We just did what most suburban kids do.
After high school, Kat surprises her friends when she takes a job in a club working as an exotic dancer.
She bought a condo in Tampa when she was 21 and began a relationship that she told me took her down a dark road, and she developed some bad habits, and it was not a healthy relationship the way she described it.
But when Kat turns 29, a chance encounter turns her life around. She meets Jeff West, a recruiter for the Army, and it's love at first sight.
They met in 2004 at a Super Bowl party. She just described him as a really sweet guy, and he was the person that she had sort of been waiting for, and the answer to her dreams and her knight in shining armor. Her life changed.
With Jeff in her life, Kat stops dancing, and after 4 months of dating, the couple marries. A year later, in 2005, the couple welcomes a baby girl, Logan, into the family.
Kat was a great mom. Yeah, she adored her daughter.
She would always rant about how Jeff was a great dad. They were very family-oriented, and you could see it.
In 2014, Kat and Jeff settle down in the small town of Calera, Alabama.
They moved to Alabama because both of their families lived there, and they wanted to be close to the grandparents.
They bought a big house. Jeff retired out of the military, and they had a great family life.
Jeff finds work as a campus police officer at a local college, while Kat is a stay-at-home mom. But the fun-loving couple still finds time to let loose.
She was the life of the party. That was her role. She loved it.
Friends love to follow Kat's life through her fun posts on social media.
It seemed like she was in a really good spot. She was very happy in the place that she always wanted to be.
January 12th, 2018. Kat and Jeff are heading out for a date night.
They dropped their daughter off at her grandparents' house, and they were going to have a good night.
Kat's parents and her daughter have no idea that this is the last time they will see her. In the early morning hours of January 13th, 2018, a 911 call comes into the Calera Police Department.
Around 5 a.m., a young woman living in the neighborhood noticed a half-naked body lying in the road.
The neighbor calls 911, and Calera Police Department rushes officers to the scene.
When they got there, they saw a female body and nothing but a pink bra.
The body is half in the road and half in the grass.
There was blood around her, and there was a bottle of absinthe right next to her as well.
Here in Alabama, the coroner's job is to go out on the scene, determine what the cause and manner of death is. She was a blonde female, very petite, maybe 30s, 40s. There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. Also, looking around scene, we noticed that there was a cell phone on scene, there was a bottle of alcohol on scene. We saw that it was uncorked, it was next to her, but the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle, so that was odd to all of us.
The bottle and cell phone are collected for testing as investigators look for evidence to help identify the victim and explain what happened to her.
There's a myriad of scenarios that are playing through your head. At face value, this looks like it was just an accident. Maybe they had walked down the street and they were hit by a car or hit their head. Was she pushed down? Was this done by somebody?
As police examine the scene, a local resident tells officers they recognize the woman as their neighbor, Kat West, and points out her home right across the street. As detectives approach the home, they see that the door is open. Jeff West appears in the doorway.
The detective could tell that he was visibly shaken.
The investigators gently begin to interview the distraught man.
He had started to kind of detail their previous date night.
They go to dinner, and after, they didn't want the night to end, so they stopped at the liquor store, bought a bottle of absinthe, and went home and continued the night. She's changed, she's in something more comfortable. He's taken photos of her, and it seemed like the night was going well for the two of them.
Jeff tells the investigators that he and Kat returned home around 9 p.m., and he had shared some photos from their fun night together on social media, including one of the bottle of absinthe they were drinking.
He told police officers that he was tired, his leg was hurting, he went to bed in the downstairs bedroom around 10:30 p.m., and he also told them that his wife wasn't ready to put an end to the night at that time.
Jeff tells the detectives much of the night is muddled in his memory, but it was the sound of the police sirens that woke him up, right before they came up to his door.
After a couple of drinks, sometimes you don't remember, or if you do remember, everything isn't so clear.
At this point, you really have no leads as to really what happened, who did it, and where to even start.
The question then has to be asked, was this murder or was this an accident?
Jeff was the last person with her, so I mean, at that point, it makes him the first suspect.
Detectives discover images of Kat West's final moments.
This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. The two of them are walking through the store.
And the more they learn about their victim, the more complex the case becomes.
She had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
Kat was too friendly. on occasion, Kat was too welcoming. And I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
Detectives trying to unravel how Kat West died are interviewing her husband, Jeff, who tells them his memories of the previous night are hazy. After a night of drinking, he says he went to bed, while Kat continued to party.
This couple went to have dinner and drinks. They went to a liquor store. They went home to drink more. So I think it's more than fair to say alcohol had an influence in what recounting these events looked like.
But as the interview goes on, Jeff does admit he remembers one other thing about the night.
Jeff told officers that he was a little aggravated that she was looking at her phone too much.
He told police officers that he felt like she was not paying attention to him. He threw her phone outside, and he went to bed. He was off. Jeff told officers she could have went outside, fell as she was trying to get her phone, or it wasn't unlike her to go outside in the middle of the night after drinking and jump on the trampoline.
If she was jumping on the trampoline, which was in their yard, we would have seen a trail of blood. The police department had to rule that out.
Maybe she got too intoxicated, walked outside, tripped and fell and hit her head, and nobody knew about it. They were both intoxicated. Maybe he had passed out and before she had come back.
Investigators hope the coroner's report will help clear up the cause of Kat's death. As detectives wait for the report, Jeff takes to social media to let the couple's friends know what's happened.
I saw a post on social media that said, "Rest in peace, Kat West." I was shocked and sad and just couldn't believe it.
I hadn't heard from her in a while, and I went and checked her page. And that's when I found out that she was gone.
I immediately reached out to Jeff and said, "Wait, what? What happened?" He spelled it out for me. He didn't remember what had happened. He woke up with the dogs barking and his door open. The cops were at his door. I was shocked. He was worried about his daughter and getting life moving forward without his wife, her mom, Kat, being in the picture.
The coroner's report comes in the next day, January 14th. It doesn't give the detectives the clarity they are hoping for.
Forensics came back with the autopsy report, and it was determined that she died from blunt force trauma to the head.
So the skull was cracked. Someone struck her in the head, and she ultimately died from brain swelling. Looking at her laceration, it was about 2.5 inches long. It was on the side of her head, just a few inches from the top of the head. Where she had the laceration, it's almost impossible to get by falling down, and there was nothing out there for her to hit her head on. So we knew that did not happen. We know some kind of tool was used that was blunt, did not have a sharp edge on it. And the main thing that was in the vicinity that could have caused that was the bottle of alcohol.
There was a bottle of absinthe next to her that had a small chip in the base of it.
So the liquor bottle is very heavy. If you strike someone with that type of glass, it will not break. And there was some blood smears on the bottle that were Kat's blood. I think someone struck her with the bottle. So you think, what happened? Did somebody come in? Was this just a stranger in the night, or she, by happenstance, end up with somebody on the street?
The only fingerprints analysts find on the liquor bottle are either Kat's or Jeff's. But detectives know that doesn't prove anything because the couple shared the bottle earlier in the evening. Although the coroner's report doesn't point to Jeff West as a suspect, the detectives feel it doesn't rule him out either.
The last person she was seen with was her husband, so you start to think, well, is there something that we missed? Is there something that we could press further on with him?
So the investigators start digging deeper into Jeff's story about the night his wife died. They visit the liquor store where the couple stopped before returning home.
You go to the liquor store, ask the employee that was on shift that night if they had seen them in there, pull security footage to verify.
But when investigators view the footage, what they find is the opposite of a couple on the verge of a violent conflict.
You can see Kat West. This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. The two of them are walking through the store. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. Jeff West slaps her butt. It honestly leaves you with more questions than it does answer any of what might have happened.
Detectives suspect Kat West's husband Jeff may be involved in her mysterious death, but have no proof. They're examining Jeff's story about what the couple did earlier on the night Kat died, and have discovered surveillance video from the liquor store he says the couple stopped in. The video includes the final images of Kat alive.
Looking at the video, everything looks great.
The two of them just wrapped up a date night, seemingly having a nice time, flirting with each other in the liquor store.
It was funny when I saw it. He pats her butt. And I kind of chuckled because that's who he was. He loved his wife. He loved the way she looked.
There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful, and they're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Everything appears to be normal, very playful, very happy. And it's sad to think that these are her final moments.
This final moment of her in the liquor store, that's who they were. That's who they are. They're good people, and she didn't deserve it.
The footage seems to corroborate Jeff's story that he and Kat are simply enjoying a fun night out. Detectives don't believe the images show him acting like a husband who will kill his wife in a few hours.
It looks like his entire story checked out and that they did indeed have a fun night together, and that was it. There's no reason we should list him as a suspect.
Kat's friends are equally convinced that whatever happened to her, Jeff isn't to blame.
He never seemed overbearing. Like, I never heard them argue or anything. They just had an interesting relationship, but it seemed like in a really good way.
I don't think there's a harmful bone in Jeff West's body. I've never seen Jeff be an angry person. I've never seen him act in anger.
Although the coroner could not determine the exact cause and manner of Kat's death, investigators suspect foul play. And with Jeff now considered less likely to have been involved, the search is on for other potential suspects.
She has a laceration to the head from blunt force trauma, so we were thinking there is something nefarious about this death.
The other side of the investigation that you have to look at is, who is Kat West? You try to find any information you can on her. Is she cheating on her husband? Does she have any enemies? We've got to look at all sides of this.
When investigators dig into Kat's internet history, they learn that she has a massive online presence.
Kat had a lot of friends online. You know, I keep my friends on Facebook, just my friends that I know. Kat had thousands of friends on Facebook because anybody that would add her, she would add. And I think that's what kept Kat on her phone all the time, was that she was always talking to people online. When Kat got hundreds of likes for a photo, that's a dopamine boost.
But the investigation also leads to a concerning discovery about Kat's online life. She wasn't only active on mainstream social media sites.
One of the things that came out was that Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service, that she would take pictures of herself in lingerie, maybe even provocative type poses, and was selling pictures of herself.
She had over 50,000 followers on her page who loved to purchase photos of her. She would model herself as Marilyn Monroe and went by the name Kitty Cat West.
She had told me that she sold her photos online, and she showed me a couple of them. I was shocked to see what I saw. They were revealing in nature. They showed her butt, her boobs, cute poses, lingerie, and people would ask for more, and they would have to pay some more money to get more. She was open about it, and Jeff knew it.
The adult stuff that she was doing online, it surprised me at first, but I think it probably filled a void for her, or it gave her some validation that she might have been craving.
Detectives realized that any one of Kat's 50,000 plus followers could have taken an online fantasy about Kat too far.
As a woman, when you are beautiful and you are showcasing yourself to these people, having a lot of followers like that, some of them may think they know you. Some of them might try to find where you live or where you frequent. There are bad followers out there. It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet.
Kat was too friendly on occasion. Kat was too welcoming. I think Kat could have gotten herself into some sticky situations, and I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
There were questionable comments that raised an eyebrow for investigators.
Did one of these followers go rogue and stalk her, come and find her? You have to take that into account.
The investigation into the death of Kat West has taken an alarming turn after investigators discover her photos on an adult website with thousands of subscribers, any one of them a potential suspect.
You see this blonde bombshell. She is in her 40s. She is a hot mom, and she had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
News of Kat's online activities clouds the investigation in another way, as it quickly grabs headlines in her suburban Alabama home.
It took off so quickly. Before we could even fathom it. You know, it's on all these news outlets.
I was a digital content producer at a news station in Birmingham at the time. In Alabama, it's conservative, it's the Bible Belt. A woman like Kat West, being a cam girl or an online selling nude photos, that is not your typical mother in this town. And it raised a lot of eyebrows.
There was a lot of victim blaming that she somehow contributed to her death. Her background of what she did was frowned upon. Obviously, her drinking was frowned upon. The community, they don't want to believe that this happens in Calera.
Just because she took those beautiful pictures, she was much more than that. They don't talk about how she was a great mother. They focus on her online stuff, her risky endeavors online. And she was so much more than that.
Investigators begin digging into Kat's vast pool of online followers, searching for anyone who might raise a red flag.
I've seen some of the comments online. They're not necessarily the nicest sounding people. I can't imagine what was in her inbox. Like, I'm sure it was pretty graphic.
Calera Police Department did a fantastic job and took their time to go back to her website to find out who was subscribing and literally check out every one of her subscribers.
You've got 50,000 followers to sift through and try to see if there's any case to be made on that.
But after 2 weeks of digging, investigators cannot find anyone among her online subscribers who might have been in the area the night Kat died.
Those people were ultimately ruled out and not considered suspects in this case.
Detectives are back to square one with no suspects. As they review their case, given the new information about Kat's online site, they can't help but wonder whether they dismissed her husband, Jeff, too quickly.
Kat West taking nude photos and selling them online also raises the question, how did her husband feel?
But investigators discover that once again, there's nothing to support suspicion of Jeff.
She wasn't living a double life. Jeff, he was very aware of it. Even her parents knew about it. His parents knew about it. So it wasn't a secret.
There had to be someone behind the camera taking those photos. And sure enough, it was Jeff.
He's in adoration of Kat and posting how hot she is. And so at that point, you're really not considering him as a suspect as much as you were before.
He didn't seem to mind at all. In fact, at one point, Jeff told me, that's how she makes her money and makes herself feel good. That's fine.
And from there, you just go back to the drawing board, right?
When detectives go back to their case file, they discover something curious, something they believe deserves a closer look.
The Wests had an ADT security system at their home, and that provided some telling information. It had a log of when their front door opened and closed.
So by Jeff's story, he went to bed at 10:30 that night, but when they checked his security, that's where they started finding out that the timelines of the events that he described, they weren't exactly matching up.
His ADT system showed the front door opened at 1:51 a.m. and stayed open for more than 4 hours past that point. The times in which that front door had opened was also past the time Jeff West said he went to sleep. It could have been his wife, it could have been Jeff, but we don't know that.
Let's not forget that it's January and the door is wide open. If you slept even a few hours with the door wide open, your home is cold. You wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, the door is open. I need to figure out, why is my door open?
The confusing data from the house security system causes investigators to once again take a look at Jeff West. And their new suspicions lead to a warrant for his cell phone records.
He told police officers he went to bed at 10:30, but his phone logged that he had been moving around past the time he told officers he went to bed.
According to the fitness history on his phone, a short time after 11 p.m., he had taken 18 steps.
The data from the phone and the door opening and closing were not exactly matching what he was telling them.
And some of the text messages with his wife found on Jeff's phone are troubling to investigators.
Looking at some of the text, it was obviously not a relationship that was perfect. She felt that he wanted to leave her. There were multiple texts with this back and forth of, should we split up? Should we stay together? She's telling him, I know you're scared to tell me if you don't want to be with me, but it's hurting me by lying. There were some fundamental issues wrong in the relationship, and the text just kind of highlighted those. All the way leading up to her death, they had these texts going on.
When investigators learn that Jeff is apparently not telling the truth about the timeline of his movements that night, they start to question everything else he has told them.
There are still a lot of holes and gaps into what really happened that night. But at that point, there was no other person of interest. There was no other suspect. It was Jeff West and Jeff West only that was being looked at as the murderer of his wife.
Investigators in Calera, Alabama have found evidence that contradicts Jeff West's story about his actions on the night his wife, Kat, died. After ruling him out earlier, the detectives are now again looking at him as a potential suspect.
Jeff had said that they had gone out on date night. They had come back home. They had taken pictures for her social media. They were in an argument about the phone because she was on her phone quite a bit. And he had gone to sleep and didn't know where she was.
He said his leg was hurting from a former injury he sustained in the Army, and so he went to bed, and Kat stayed up from there.
Detectives know the data from the West's home alarm system and from the fitness tracker app on Jeff's phone appear to contradict that. But Jeff is sticking with his original story.
He told police officers, how does anybody know the exact moment they went to bed? What's the difference between 10:30 and 11:15? If alcohol was involved, if someone asks you to the minute when you went to bed last night, are you able to have an accurate answer?
With Jeff now firmly in their sights, detectives go back and review all of the evidence. That includes obtaining the original 911 call from the neighbor who found Kat's body. When they listen to the full recording, they discover it contains a critical clue.
When she called 911, she asked had anybody already called this in, because across the street, she could see a man pacing in his home and the door was wide open.
This statement contradicts what Jeff West told police officers, and that was that he was awoken to the sound of sirens, which were not there yet.
Jeff's whole story seems to be falling apart. Next, the investigators conduct a careful re-examination of the evidence found near Kat's body. They realize there may be an explanation for some of the unusual things they noticed there.
We did see a cell phone on scene. There was a bottle of alcohol on scene. And it is weird that the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle. You would think if you were intoxicated that the bottle would be just randomly down on the ground, not propped on the phone.
If Jeff was involved in his wife's death, they wonder, could he have staged the scene, trying to make it look like an accident? But it's when they re-examine Jeff's fingerprints on the absinthe bottle, previously dismissed because he was known to have held it earlier in the night, that the loudest alarms are set off.
The location of the fingerprints on the bottle of absinthe wouldn't be if you were to just grab a bottle. They were positioned if you were holding it upside down by the neck.
Detectives realize this could be because Jeff was holding the bottle of absinthe as a weapon. And they now put together a theory of what they believe happened the night Kat died.
Probably Kat was on her phone and that irritated him, and Jeff threw her phone outside. And then afterwards they took pictures and she only had the bra on. And obviously something went wrong. Probably her asking where my phone is. And she went out to find the phone. He followed her out there and things escalated. I think he initially struck her with the bottle. She fell and probably lost consciousness at the time. And he walked back to the house. And as she regained some type of consciousness, she moved around in the grass and kind of pulled herself to the curb. She was in a fetal position, but probably because she was cold. She was just clothed in a pink bra, no other clothes.
Afterwards, the investigators theorize Jeff tried to cover up his crime by staging Kat's cell phone and the bottle next to her.
Obviously, there are some holes in the story, and as it progressed, the holes became bigger. So about 5 weeks after the cat was found on the street, Jeff was arrested for her death.
Despite having only circumstantial evidence, on February 23, 2018, police charged Jeff West with murder. Jeff continues to insist he did not kill his wife, and many people believe he is telling the truth.
Kat West's family, her parents, her friends, all sided with Jeff West. They immediately said that he didn't do it. They loved each other and they had this marriage that was so beautiful. And although they argued here and there, like that's just marriage. That's what comes with it.
When I first found out, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, Jeff? Jeff hit her with a bottle?
I would have never pegged Jeff to be harmful in any way. I was in disbelief that Jeff would have killed Kat.
The evidence is counterintuitive to what I knew about her and Jeff.
Hoping to avoid a lengthy trial with an outcome they can't be certain of, prosecutors make Jeff an offer.
He was offered a plea deal from the prosecution for time served plus 2 years probation. He turned that down.
So you're turning down that for possibly spending years in prison. It made you wonder, is he really innocent? Maybe he didn't do it.
Jeff West's trial for the murder of his wife Kat outside their Calera, Alabama home is set to begin on November 17, 2020.
Jeff was offered a plea deal where he would serve time at a lesser charge. He would get out of jail earlier, prison earlier, but he did not want to do that. He wanted to pursue a jury trial and still maintain his innocence.
I was shocked when Jeff didn't take the plea deal, but I understood why. If that's your story and you're sticking to it, why would you take the plea deal?
Prosecutors argue that Kat's death was not an accident. That Jeff West bludgeoned her to death with an alcohol bottle following an argument.
The most damning testimony that was given was the medical examiners, who said that she could not have died by falling.
Prosecutors present jurors with the home alarm data and information from Jeff's fitness tracker suggesting he lied about his actions on the night of Kat's death. They display the texts showing a troubled marriage. And they showed the video of Jeff and Kat purchasing the murder weapon, a bottle of absinthe. But Jeff's lawyers counter that the investigation was not able to prove that the bottle was in fact used to kill Kat.
When Jeff West's attorneys were presenting the case to the jurors, they were saying, we don't have a murder weapon. We don't have a motive. These two were in love. It's not Jeff West.
After a week of testimony, both sides rest their cases.
When the jurors went to deliberate, I thought it could go either way.
The jury's options were murder, manslaughter, or innocent. I thought that they were either going to pick one of the extremes, that he killed her with intent or that he didn't at all. The jury came back after their deliberations and read their verdict. Jeff West was guilty of reckless manslaughter.
Jeff wasn't necessarily planning for this to happen. They had gone out, they had gotten drunk, they had gotten disgruntled about something and maybe gotten into an argument wasn't premeditated murder. It was more of a reckless killing.
To see them fall in that middle ground that he was responsible for killing her but did not intend to was interesting, because that wasn't a story told by the prosecution or the defense. The defense is over here saying he didn't do it at all. The prosecution is saying he did and he meant to. The jury decided neither of those narratives held true. Jeff West was sentenced to 16 years.
Though Jeff West sits behind bars, for many, questions about his guilt still linger.
I think Calera PD saw online double life, jealous husband, crazy guy, and he killed her. But there are lots of other avenues that could have happened that night that I don't feel were investigated well enough.
I don't think justice was served in the case because I don't think it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it.
The thing I miss most about Kat is her glowing attitude. She was always there as a friend. She could cheer you up any time of day, just a sweet person. She's gone way too soon, just way too soon.
She had just a glow about her. She had a spark, you know? She's just one of them people that you never forget.
I got to say goodbye to Kat and Jeff when they were leaving to Alabama, and I remember giving her a huge hug, and she was happy to be going home. And the light in her eyes was telling. She was thrilled to be moving on and going and living her dream.
She was probably the best person I've ever met. Seriously. That's how good her heart was. The world is missing her beautiful soul. I miss her love and her light and her energy.
Videotaping myself videotape because I'm just that yes.
If you please know where my daughter is, any information, please.
We definitely had to entertain the possibility that this young girl was abducted and taken quickly out towards I-95.
My heart couldn't take it. It was horrifying.
She was able to provide investigators with 2 photos of Danielle.
In the reflection of the eyeglasses, you can see other people. So it's actually an incredibly valuable piece of evidence.
Now this is starting a lot of more questions than answers.
What police find is a shovel, and there was something on there that looked like blood.
"15-year-old Danielle Locklear is enjoying a yearly tradition. Spending her summer with her grandparents and extended family in the quaint town of Hope Mills, North Carolina.
Danielle and I, we was really close. My name is Darlene Hegel. Danielle Locklear is my granddaughter. And she cared a lot about me, and we did a lot of things together. Go down to the church. The church was always in it because that's, you know, what we did.
My name is China Papa, and I am Danielle's aunt. She loved to
make videos and tutorials. Anything that involves some creativity, she can do it. She really loved baking cakes, that's for sure. Well, I was like, wow, how did you learn how to do this? And her cakes were delicious.
I'm videotaping myself eating cake because I'm just that
Yes. It was just like a little home away from home. She had a good time coming to visit for the summer.
That summer, Danielle meets a young man who is familiar to her family. 17-year-old Jamichael Malloy.
We've seen him over the years at the church. I've seen him when he was a kid, and then one day he's like a handsome teenager.
Once I seen that they seemed to be getting along well and liking each other, I felt that, oh, this is a good thing.
When the summer comes to an end, it's time for Danielle to return home to her mother, Rona, and stepfather in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But there's a problem.
When it was time for her to go back, she didn't want to go back because she had a love interest. And she was like, please, Grandma, I want to stay.
Adding to Danielle's desire is the fact that her mother and stepfather are going through a painful divorce. So Danielle's mother agrees to let her stay in Hope Mills.
She came to live with us, and we were all open arms. She enrolls in Southview High School in Hope Mills, which is like right behind our neighborhood.
While Jamichael starts his senior year 14 miles away in Fayetteville, Danielle settles into her freshman year.
I met Danielle when she had just came to the school, and we just clicked instantly. Danielle is the most kind person, very outgoing. She could make a friend instantly. You could definitely spot her from a crowd. That was what all guys talked about in school, is how beautiful she was. But she was very much in love with Jamichael. She really thought that that was it for her.
Later that school year, on the morning of Tuesday, March 11th, Danielle's grandmother and Aunt Sheena are preparing to go out of town, leaving Danielle with her grandfather for the night.
It was kind of a busy morning for myself and my mother. We were about to go to Atlanta, Georgia for a doctor's visit, and Danielle usually is out the house by 8 o'clock in the morning, rushing off to school.
But that morning, Danielle is running late.
I remember looking at her, and I said, okay, bye, Danielle. She said, bye, Grandma. And I just seen the side of her face, and then she was gone. I had no idea that was going to be the last time I would see Danielle.
That evening, hours after Danielle returned from school, at around 9:45, she asks her grandfather if she can run a quick errand.
He said he remembers seeing her come up beside his shoulder and say, Papa, I need to take this binder to my friend up the street. Is it okay? He said, oh, okay, yeah, just come right back. Just simple as that.
But an hour later, Danielle hasn't returned home.
The grandfather said that he's calling the phone, she's not answering, going to voicemail, so he starts driving around Hope Mills looking for Danielle, and he can't find her. The grandfather said that he hesitated calling the police because he always believed that you had to wait 24 hours to report someone missing. Finally, at 3 in the morning, he gave up, went back to sleep, hoped that by the morning she would have come home.
When he wakes up, he begins to panic.
I got a phone call down in Atlanta from my husband, and he said that it's been a while now and she never came back to the house. I'm all nervous at that point. So we started getting our things together real quick to come back home.
Danielle's grandmother instructs her husband to call the police and then rushes to return to Hope Mills.
When we reach Hope Mills, the police are already there.
I'm Detective Joshua Hamilton, and I was assigned to be the lead investigator on the Danielle Locklear case. The grandfather was questioned by responding officers. So Danielle was said to be going to Alexis, who's a friend of hers she goes to school with. She was taking a book to drop off at her house.
But before investigators head to Alexis's house, Aunt Sheena reveals that she knows where Danielle may be. Her hunch stems from an odd encounter she had with her niece 2 days before she went missing.
It was becoming dark, and Danielle is running past the driveway toward the door and caught me off guard because she's never really out at nighttime. And I say, well, where are you coming from? Out of breath she was. She's like, oh, I'm coming from the back of the neighborhood. There's like a creek back there, and all the kids have been trying to get me to go hang out. The first thing that comes to my mind is this creek area. Maybe she's hanging out back there or something.
Officers did respond down to the creek with Sheena. They canvassed that area with her. We did not know at the time. That's where a large group of teenagers would congregate.
I'm seeing, like, you know, some kids' notebooks back there, just like things where you could tell teenagers had been back there hanging out.
However, there are no active signs of Danielle or anyone else. But as the group are leaving the site, Danielle's Aunt Sheena spots something.
And I look down and I see her night sock. Little fuzzy striped gray and black and white sock. And it's balled up. And I know it's hers because, you know, I bought these socks. And I tell the police, I said, you know, this is something that she wears around the house.
It's weird that this particular sock would be found at the creek, especially if it's something that Danielle would only wear at night. Which brings up the question, had Danielle been to the creek that night she disappeared?
Danielle's inner world revealed.
I remember her texting me in gym class, and she just started bawling instantly.
She's really distressed about this, and she had a lot going on for a 15-year-old.
And classmates point the finger at a former student.
The other kids had told the police she had rejected him and that maybe he had something to do with her disappearance.
She seemed like a goody-goody, and goodies have a bad habit of snitching.
The day after 15-year-old Danielle Locklear goes missing, while searching a creek, her aunt discovers a sock that Danielle only wore at night.
We treated it as an item of evidence and secured it.
The family then makes a painful call to Danielle's mom.
We called my daughter, Rona, while she was still at Myrtle Beach. Told her that Danielle didn't come home. And she said, what do you mean she didn't come home? What do you mean, where's she at? All this kind of stuff. And so everybody was dumbfounded.
Can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't think. Now, there's so many different things that could have happened to her.
By the time we were looking for her, she could be anywhere.
Danielle's mom rushes to Hope Mills, while police visit Alexis, the friend Danielle told her grandfather she was visiting the previous night.
Alexis told investigators that Danielle had not come to her house during the nighttime hours the night before. Her friend was not even aware that Danielle was coming to her house, which kind of shocked us. Now we don't know where she went.
Detectives wonder, why did Danielle lie to her grandfather about where she went that night. Alexis goes on to tell police that she did spend time with Danielle earlier that afternoon at a place now familiar to investigators.
She had seen Danielle the day before at the creek during school hours.
So quickly found out that she actually skipped part of the day and went to the creek. So now this is starting a lot of more questions than answers.
Alexis was able to provide investigators with 2 photos taken from the creek the day before. Danielle seemed to be enjoying herself. She was smiling. These images were, final images of Danielle that we're aware of.
As I'm looking at pictures of Danielle, she has some glasses on. If you look, there's four people in the background.
In the reflection of the eyeglasses, you can see other people. And it just takes a matter of moments to figure out who those people are. So it's actually an incredibly valuable piece of evidence.
Investigators consider if the afternoon at the creek is somehow connected to Danielle's disappearance.
Establishing what exactly transpired at the creek was super, super important. We had to figure that out pretty quick.
Detectives then set out to identify and interview all of the teens that were present. One of the first they interview is Danielle's friend, Caroline. She tells them that 2 days before her disappearance, a heartbroken Danielle shared some stunning news.
I remember her texting me in gym class, and I went to go see her, and she just started bawling instantly, which is not her characteristic at all. She told me about Jamichael and that he had cut things off with her and that she was really upset. And she started asking me about the creek and where I go when I skip. And I was like, do you want to see it? And then we went down there and we just joked around for a little bit.
That evening, Danielle encountered her Aunt Sheena when she returned home. The next afternoon, the day Danielle went missing, she and Caroline stealthily returned.
The next day, we spent the day there. I remember it being sunny and warm. There's probably at least 6 kids down there. We had laid out beach towels and blankets. She was just laughing the whole time. I didn't think she was sad anymore at all. That was the last time I saw Danny, my final day with her. I just feel like that was a good day to have with her. If I had to pick a last day with somebody, that was a good one.
Danielle was able to burn up about an hour and a half, 2 hours of her day down there at the creek with her friends before she kind of snuck back onto the school property and walked back in undetected.
After school, Danielle went home before heading out later that evening. Detectives wonder if Danielle didn't visit Alexis that night. Did she meet up with Jamichael?
Once we established that she did have a boyfriend, we wanted to talk to him as well.
Jamichael tells the police that Danielle was having such a hard time with the breakup that she kept bugging Jamichael, and he said he had to block her from his phone, so he hadn't talked to her in days.
Detectives then ask where he was on the night Danielle went missing.
Jamichael tells investigators that he was at home with his friend, Dominic. Those two were tight. They were like brothers. But he hadn't left the house and he was there all night. Investigators asked for consent to do a forensic analysis of his phone and the contents within it. He surrendered that phone to us with no problems. That extra step to reassure us that he didn't know where she was.
As they sift through the messages on Jamichael's phone, they make a shocking discovery.
Several days before she went missing, she was saying to him that she had taken a test and was in fact pregnant with his baby.
Messages concerning her pregnancy raised a lot of alarms. We had to assume that she is pregnant, and we're looking for a pregnant teenager.
It was obvious that there was a lot of anger, and Jamichael didn't believe that Danielle was pregnant. So this seems to be something that they were fighting about.
Did Jamichael's anger spill over the night Danielle disappeared? When they locate the texts from that evening, however, they discover something else.
Police learned from Jamichael's phone that he was home that night, texting with other girls. Looks like he was home all night, as he said he was.
To Danielle's family, the turmoil in her personal life comes as a surprise.
So I didn't really hear anything about any of the pregnancy scare stuff. When I found out that she was thinking about being sexually active, I immediately took her to the doctors to get her put on birth control. But she didn't really seem like there was that much that was bothering her.
In hopes of unearthing new clues, detectives file a subpoena for Danielle's cell data. Then, they retrace her steps from the day she went missing, starting with her walk from school to the creek.
Investigators discovered the camera aiming at the sidewalk, which leads to the trail to the creek.
This surveillance video of Danielle is proof of what Danielle was doing that day before she disappeared.
In March, a few days before Danielle disappeared, she and her aunt threw a birthday party for her uncle.
My husband was turning 65, and I got together with Danielle and asked if she would bake the cake. And she said yes. She was really excited about that. So the day arose. Everyone was enjoying themselves. My husband loved the cake. The cake was delicious. And really, it just breaks my heart because that was the last time that I seen her.
Two days after she is reported missing, investigators review security footage of Danielle on the day she vanished.
It was certainly of interest to investigators at that point because it was earlier in the day that she went missing later that evening. Danielle was seen walking toward the creek. It captured her stopping, putting her head down, kind of putting her head in her hands as if she may have been upset or thinking about something. And then she moves out of view.
Police are also learning that she is absolutely heartbroken about her breakup with Jamichael Malloy. It's possible that Danielle may have thought that she was pregnant. She had a lot going on for a 15-year-old.
I don't think we'll ever know exactly what was going through her mind, but, you know, it's obvious something's there.
Then investigators get another critical clue when the location data from her cell phone comes through.
When we started to receive those records to see what her movements were the night she went missing, it showed her in that area of her residence, and then it showed her heading towards I-95. It started going north, roughly about 8 miles before it cut off.
Danielle's phone last pinged a cell tower at 10:40 p.m. Investigators combed that area for Danielle's cell phone, to no avail. But the location data presents them with a new theory of her disappearance.
It told a story of leaving Hope Mills in a very, very fast manner, faster than one could walk. She had to have been in a vehicle. At that point, we definitely had to entertain the possibility that this young girl was abducted walking down the road and taken quickly out, towards I-95.
We've gotten the federal authorities and FBI involved. We were able, from social media, from pictures of the family, to get descriptions as well as photographs of Danielle out there and really try to push them out.
Just a few days after she's reported missing, Danielle's disappearance makes national news.
Basically, every news channel, everywhere you could possibly put news, that was Danny's face.
I want my baby to come home. That's my baby girls. No one knows what a mother goes through when I feel like my heart is ripped out. If you please know where my daughter is, any information, please tell her to come home. Or Danielle, if you see this, come home, baby. I love you.
Danielle's ex-boyfriend also joins the efforts to find her.
Jermichael was right there in the huddle with us, looking for, making the plan, where we're gonna go, what we're gonna search, who we're gonna talk to next. We did everything within our power, making phone calls, calling friends, making flyers, sending faxes. Our attitude was that, do whatever's necessary to find her. And we're praying and hoping that you find her alive.
While the search for Danielle continues across the United States, detectives continue to interview classmates who were at the creek the day Danielle disappeared. And one of them points to a former student with a questionable past.
Investigators learned about Derek through another individual. He told us about Derek, how, he potentially had something to do with her disappearance.
The other kids had told the police that Derek maybe was interested in Danielle and that maybe she had rejected him and that maybe he had something to do with her disappearance.
Detective suspicions are raised when they learn that Derek lives near the area where Danielle's cell phone last pinged.
We took him to the sheriff's office voluntarily. We felt that several things he told us, they didn't sit easy with us.
Investigators are questioning a former student who lives in the area where Danielle Locklear's phone last pinged.
The best way to describe Derek is he's kind of like the school truant. Has been expelled a few times, but he still hangs out with the kids from the high school. And Derek was at the creek on the day that Danielle was there.
Let me ask you something. Was Danny hot?
Oh, yeah, she was a very beautiful girl.
Was you infatuated with her? You kind of have like a secret crush?
No, she seemed a little too preppy. She seemed like a goody-goody. And honestly, I don't hang out with goody-goodies. Goody-goodies have a bad habit of snitching. I ain't gonna lie. I do illegal things, and I know I do.
Derek was unique in the fact that he was very outspoken. He admits to not liking her, that she's too preppy. That's not his cup of tea. He made it clear that, he does illegal things. We don't hear that very often.
Let's put Derek's posturing aside. Let's look at the facts. Where was Derek on the night that Danielle disappeared?
When questioned on his whereabouts during the hours of 8:30 p.m. to 12:30 the next morning, Derek says he was at his father's house.
Around 8:30, my dad left to go to a pool tournament. I stayed on the computer, job searching. Between Facebook, job searching, and TV, that's what I was doing all night.
He was alone for those hours, which is also very suspicious. There's no one else in the home with him.
Derek is certainly someone that has raised investigators' suspicion at this point.
Detectives then turn to the location of the final cell ping from Danielle's phone.
But we know where Danielle's phone was. okay, what area her phone was. It's out there around your house, in that general area. Okay, I'm not saying it's right at your house, but in the general area. And that was Tuesday night, 22:45, which would be 10:45. I'm asking you, was she alive when she left that area out there around your house?
I have no idea, I didn't see her.
You're telling me you have no knowledge whatsoever of what happened to Danielle Locklear?
No, sir.
But police aren't convinced Derek is telling the truth.
Police decide they're going to take this a little bit deeper. Police get a search warrant and they search Derek's house.
We do a search of that property based on the information provided.
While examining the property, investigators immediately observe something alarming.
What police find is a shovel. And there was something on there that looked like blood.
The shovel appeared to have what we thought was blood on it. So, we ran some tests on it.
But when the police took the shovel in for forensic examination, they determined that it was not blood on the shovel.
So at this point, there was nothing tying Derek directly to Danielle's disappearance.
People tried to say that Derek had done something to her or hurt her in some way. A lot of very mean things that he did not deserve.
We reached a point, where we couldn't rule him out, but we couldn't corroborate what he's saying to us. We didn't have enough to keep moving forward with him. So we regrouped and started to pick up where the evidence left off again.
Then, on April 2nd, 22 days after Danielle disappeared, an off-duty police officer discovers something concerning off a bridge about 20 miles outside of Hope Mills. He immediately calls 911.
Is there a deputy close by with a pair of binoculars so I can make sure there's not a body in the water?
On April 2nd, 3 weeks after Danielle disappeared, an off-duty cop calls 911 for assistance.
Is there a deputy close by with a pair of binoculars so I can make sure there's not a body in the water?
Okay, I just got up with Edward 6. As soon as he cleared his call, he can be en route to you.
Once he got the binoculars, he was able to see that it was, in fact, a body in the river.
Detectives race to the scene.
When the body was pulled from the water, I recognized personally the shirt that was on the body as being the shirt that Danielle was pictured wearing at the creek. It was heartbreaking. We knew at some point we were going to have to tell her family that the worst outcome possible was now a reality.
When Danielle's body was recovered from the water, there was a center block tied around her waist that was tied with yellow rope. There was also another center block tied around her feet, again with yellow rope.
The cinder blocks were of the coarse gravel. They were definitely an older cinder block. They weren't like the crushed fine concrete you see typically in today's cinder blocks.
Once police receive a positive identification from the medical examiner, they notify Danielle's family.
It was very hard. It was hard. It was a hard day.
At that point, my heart couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. It was horrifying.
I just kept thinking, this can't be real. Like, this is like the worst thing that could possibly have happened. I just felt like I could never really believe it in my mind that she was gone.
As Danielle's family and friends begin to mourn, detectives get to work. The medical examiner concludes that Danielle had been strangled. And they find something else.
It also noted that there was a sock that had been stuffed into her mouth.
It's a match to the night sock Aunt Sheena found on the creek trail weeks earlier.
The sock was listed as part of the death. The medical examiner could not rule out the actual mechanism for her death. Was it strangulation or was it the sock? Only thing they could say was it was from both.
The other important fact that the medical examiner is able to provide is that Danielle Locklear was not pregnant. It's possible that Danielle may have thought that she was pregnant at a certain time, but she was not pregnant when she was killed.
Detectives theorize that Danielle was murdered at the creek, and her body was disposed in the river about 20 miles away. To investigators, the location of the disposal site seems significant.
The South River, where Danielle was found, is a little under a mile from Jamichael Malloy's residence.
Despite his alibi, Jamichael is now the focus of the investigation.
It only added to my suspicion, based on everything to that point, that he had everything to do with this, and we were going to chase down every bit of evidence we could to make sure that we could hold him responsible.
Detectives prepare a search warrant for his house and bring him into the station for questioning.
Jamichael willingly comes in. His mother goes with him because she's now really worried.
It don't look good. That body, really, how did it get down there? Somebody could be trying to frame you.
You may have to prove that. Well, it'll be 2 months. It'll be okay.
Investigators press Jamichael on his involvement in Danielle's murder.
You think I'm a smart kid? Yeah, I do think you're a smart kid. Why in the world would I put her down the street and around the corner? Because more often than not, that's what people do. You know, based on my experience, they tend to not want to leave their comfort zone. Y'all seen y'all ping my phone and seen I was at home, so.
Investigators then inform the Malloys that officers are searching their home.
We have cooperated to the full, but now that you're searching my house, we're going to use our attorney.
Yes, ma'am. You ready for my home?
Yes, sir. Right now.
I'm going to go there.
While Jamichael is being interrogated at the police station, other officers are searching his property, and they find something unbelievable. Cinder blocks that match exactly to the cinder blocks that were tied around Danielle's body. At his home, in the soil, they find the indentation, the marks left from the cinder blocks that had been there and had been removed. Then they find rope, very similar to the kind that had been tied around Danielle's body. Obviously, cops are trying to get a confession out of Jamichael. They're putting the evidence on the table and saying, Jamichael, it had to have been you. The cops think this is the aha moment, but Jamichael doesn't crack. He doesn't confess. He is so calm.
Jamichael's best friend, Dominic Locke, is also brought in for questioning, but he refuses to speak with detectives.
Everything points to Jamichael, but we don't have the probable cause to go ahead and charge him. We wrapped it up, let him go on his way, and told him we're gonna see you again. This ain't over.
4 days after denying he had anything to do with Danielle's murder, Jamichael Malloy tells police he's ready to talk again. Jamichael explains that on the night of the murder, he and his friend Dominic drove to Danielle's home.
I was like, all right, I'm ready to get this pregnancy thing done. So I had took my wallet and I threw it against her window.
To get out of the house, Danielle told her grandfather that she needed to drop off a notebook at her friend's house.
She came out and everything, and she got in the car, and we went to the creek. We sat down and talked for a while, and she was cursing me out, still being mean to me. And I'm just trying to shove it off. And she was supposed to take a pregnancy test in front of me. I told her, no matter what, if you're pregnant or not, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. If this is my kid, DNA proven and everything. But I'm not gonna be with you. And that's when she snapped on me. She punched me in my face. She slapped me and jumped on top of me and got all over me and stuff.
According to Jamichael, in the middle of their alleged fight, he snapped.
All I remember was I grabbed her. I was choking her. I blacked out. Next thing I knew, she wasn't breathing. And I freaked out.
Jamichael says he goes up to where Dominic is, waiting by the car, and explains that he's just killed Danielle, and says, Dominic, you've got to help me. Dominic and Jamichael walk back down to the creek where Danielle's body is, and they start to pick her up and carry her back.
The sock that Sheena found likely fell off along the way. According to Jamichael, Dominic shoved the remaining sock into her mouth.
Why would he do that? She was making a noise. Yeah, but if I could nurse and nobody would hear it. Yeah, and Dominic got in the car. Yeah, drove back to my house. I went and got the rope in the cinder block and tied her up, put her in the car, threw her over the side into the river.
With his confession on record, Jamichael Malloy and Dominic Locke are arrested and charged with second-degree murder.
It was terrible. I mean, to get that information, and we had been searching about a month, having Jamichael with us during those searches, saying, have you heard anything? Oh, I pray that she's okay, and we'll find her. All of these things, all the time knowing exactly where she was.
Jamichael betrayed us as a family. He knew that she was precious to us and that we would never stop looking for her. To go and pick her lifeless body up and toss her in the river like she was nothing. Not one time did you say, oh my God, I made a terrible mistake. I've got to call for help.
In a tragic twist, investigators suspect that Danielle lied to Jamichael about being pregnant in order to gain his attention. But one question remains: the texts from Jamichael's phone that placed him at home the night of Danielle's murder.
A specialist in phone analysis was able to uncover that Jamichael had used a texting app where you could schedule your phone to send out text at a future time. And so he had left his phone at his house, but yet his phone was still sending text to friends as if he was still at his house.
In May of 2016, Jamichael Malloy pleads guilty to second-degree murder. At his sentencing, he turns to speak to Danielle's heartbroken family.
There's nothing I can do there or I can say that's going to bring her back. But I do want to apologize for the actions that I made.
He is sentenced to 25 to 31 years in prison. Dominic Locke pleads guilty to accessory after the fact and is sentenced to 6 to 8 years behind bars.
You never get over something like this. You learn to live with it. My sister is never going to be the same. Danielle was more than a niece to me, and I'm just thankful for those years I shared with her.
Years later, friends and family still cherish their final moments with Danielle.
Janie was just a great person to be around, and I don't think I can ever forget the person she was. You'd think after years and years and it being high school, it would fade a little bit. I always thought it would. I would get older and I would get over it. But Danny was too much of a good person and a bright person and such a positive energy in life that you can't forget that.
When she left the house that day, she said, okay, bye-bye, Grandma. I said, okay, bye-bye. It was real quick, like that. And as she was going out the door, she's like, I love you, Grandma. I'm forever grateful to her. And I thank the Lord every day for letting me have that moment, that last moment with her. And I always love her.
बज गई शीशी अतरा वाली ना जुड़नी ना भरनी अखियां दा जद नूर ना रेया फेर किए लग करनी अखियां दा जद नूर ना रेया फेर के लग करनी सावण चढ़िया वे जोर लगाया वे रुड़ गई रेत नमाणी तू किया रुड़ दी वे रेत निमाणी मेरे मुसाफिर पानी तू किया रुड़ दी वे रेत निमाणी मेरे मुसाफिर पानी लगी दानेड़े गई जवानी आए बड़े माँ कोई नहीं लगी दानेड़े मानी दा कब पानी देना भर भर मशीना दे हर हर मशीना देवे मालिक गाना फले निनाना गावे आना गावे मालिक गाना फले निनाना गावे आना गावे गावे आना गावे गावे आना गावे